Okay, moving on to the next segment of today's show. It is time for our Week 7 NFL picks. And as you guys know, I say it every week. It is just absolutely crazy that we are already in Week 7 of the NFL season. We have so many good games this week. And in this year, just like every other year, the NFL season just continues to just fly by and fly by. So without further ado, here are the Week 7 NFL picks. We will start off with the Thursday night football game between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. And one thing I'll say about Carson Wentz is this. He has played pretty well the last 3 weeks. He has looked much better when you consider what the expectations were. And for me, not trying to make any excuses, but this dude is missing 3 offensive linemen, basically all of his wide receivers, and Miles Sanders and Zach Ertz aren't going to play in this game either. Now, the Eagles' defensive line still looks good on paper, and it's solid in reality. But the thing is, I just can't trust this New York Giant team to get a win. I know their defense is playing really well. James Bradberry has been awesome. Leonard Williams is probably, better as a Giant than he's ever been as a New York Jet. Martinez and Fackrell, the linebackers, are making plays. And I actually wouldn't be shocked if the New York Giants come out here and win this game. I'm just going to come and go with the quarterback that I trust the most to get the job done, and I'm going to take the quarterback that I think is at home and gives his team the best chance to win. So I'm going to take Carson Wentz here. I mentioned it earlier in the podcast that last year, the Philadelphia Eagles had a home primetime game against the New York Giants and somehow found a way to win behind Carson Wentz and him playing with just really no weapons whatsoever. So I'm going to take Philadelphia to get the close win over the Giants. On Sunday's game, we spent a lot of time on it earlier. The Pittsburgh Steelers will head to Tennessee to take on the Titans. And it's crazy to realize that Ryan Tannehill is the better quarterback in this matchup. Because right now, he does look like the better quarterback in not only this matchup, but almost every matchup. And while he's kept up his efficiency on play action in the red zone and his ability to avoid sacks and throw against pressure looks really good, I just don't think that's going to be able to happen against the Pittsburgh Steelers that have too many good players, and I just think this is going to be a really tough matchup for the Tennessee Titans. I just want to make it clear, I'm not going to be out that Tennessee is a bad football team, or, they don't have a chance to win this game, or they can't go further than Pittsburgh when it comes to the playoffs. All I'm saying is that I just think Pittsburgh creates a very tough matchup for the Tennessee Titans, even in Nashville. So I'm going to take the Steelers to win a close one over Tennessee. How about the Washington football team hosting the Dallas Cowboys? Both of these teams needing a win. Dallas has 2 wins there at the top of the NFC East, while Washington only has 1. That came in week 1 over the Philadelphia Eagles. And Kyle Allen, he's been a little up and down. His fumble did produce the Giants' go-ahead touchdown last week. He then led an impressive drive to get them within a point, only to hesitate on the 2-point conversion that cost the Washington football team the win. Overall, I do think Washington's offense has looked better with him at the helm, and its defense has performed pretty well all season. And with that being said, I don't want to overreact to the Cowboys' Monday Night Meltdown, but their injury problems and league worst in turnovers kind of makes me want to take the Washington football team to win this game. And I actually think that they are going to win this game, and the Dallas Cowboy fans are just going to have to continue living with what has just been a nightmarish season so far. I really cannot believe how bad this Dallas Cowboy defense is. And I actually think some Washington players will have some good games here. Antonio Gibson, I think, should have a solid game. Kyle Allen, as I mentioned. And really anyone facing the Dallas Cowboys defense has the opportunity to get the job done. So I'm going to take Washington to outscore Andy Dalton and get the win over Dallas. How about the Buffalo Bills heading to New York, MetLife Stadium, to take on the Jets? And I'm kind of worried about Josh Allen in terms of how he faces off against some of the better defenses in the league. And he's played better than the numbers have showed the last 2 weeks. I get it. But at the same time, I'm going to take the Bills to win this game, but you guys know how I feel about them. I just can't necessarily trust them against some of the better teams in the league. Unfortunately for the Jets, they are not one of them. If Josh Allen and the Bills lose this game, we're going to have some big problems. I think Buffalo gets back in the mix, gets over the hump from their last 2 games, and gets the win here over the New York Jets. How about the New Orleans Saints heading to Carolina, hosting Carolina to to take on the Panthers. And it's still a question for the Saints whether Michael Thomas plays or not this week. And the Saints have showed some promising signs before their bye week. I think their defensive line is much healthier, and I've been super impressed with Marcus Davenport. He's been phenomenal, and I'm curious to see how Joe Brady, a guy who's a former New Orleans Saints assistant, I'm curious to see what he does with this Carolina offense and how he tries to attack Dennis Allen, who right now is a fine defensive coordinator, but he could get in his own way when trying to make his presence felt sometimes. When a team like the Panthers needs to win with a scheme and coaching because their players aren't as talented, I have a tough time picking them to win, especially with Christian McCaffrey out. So I'm going to take the Saints, but you guys know, if you listen to this show, the Saints are another team, man, that right now I am just still not 100% sold on them. I don't think that they're going to be able to win a Super Bowl with a quarterback like Drew Brees playing the way he is right now. As unfortunate as it is, he's just a little old and he really struggles to get the ball downfield sometimes. So I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints to win this game, but I just wanted to make myself clear again. I don't really consider New Orleans to be this big top-notch threat in the NFC. I think there are definitely other teams that could provide threats to Seattle, Green Bay, Tampa, some of the other ones at the top. So I'll take New Orleans to win this one. I think the law of averages hits Carolina a little bit once again, and they lose here to the Saints. How about the Green Bay Packers heading to Houston to take on the Texans? And I think ultimately the question here is, which defense do you trust more? Despite superior depth on the defensive line, the Packers are ranked 30th in defensive DVOA, which actually marks 3 spots behind the Texans defense. And if you've watched the Houston Texan defense, they're not very good. And Green Bay is going to need guys like Preston Smith and Adrian Amos to step up a little bit. And Mike Pettine's group is really struggling against the run. That steps up very nicely for Deshaun Watson, who has played pretty well the last 3 weeks. And Houston actually does, I think, have a deeper group of pass catchers than Green Bay. I think the Packers win this one and bounce back, but I'm curious to see what exactly the performance is like from this Green Bay Packer defense, because even though Aaron Rodgers really did struggle for a lot of last week, I do think Green Bay's defense is kind of, escaping the pressure here, escaping the spotlight. They really were not good in that game either, and really, for the most part, unlike Aaron Rodgers, they haven't been good all season. So if you're a fan of the Green Bay Packers, I think this is going to be one where you just want to see at least just signs of life from your defense, because if not, Houston is going to be able to put up a lot of points in this game, and you really don't want to lose 2 games in a row. I'm going to take the Packers to win this one. Should be close. How about the Cleveland Browns heading to Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals? And this is actually going to be the second time so far this season that these two teams match up and play. If you remember, the first time they played, it was in week 2, and the Cleveland Browns ended up getting the victory. And I think it's an open question as to which quarterback is better in this game. Despite their records, it's also a question what defense is better too. The Browns have the edge when it comes to the offensive line, the running game, and the coaching staff, but I wouldn't blame Cleveland fans for approaching this meeting with some caution and, kind of nervous. So I'm actually going to take the Cleveland Browns to win this game, but I really wouldn't be shocked at all if somehow, some way, the Cincinnati Bengals find a way to win. Because when you look at the way the Cincinnati Bengals have been playing recently, I've been impressed with Joe Burrow and what he's been able to do, especially getting many different weapons involved. I really like the chemistry that he's been able to develop with T. Higgins. And even though Cincinnati's defense isn't that good, I don't trust Cleveland's offense. And I think Cleveland, if they're going to win this game, it's going to be by using the same strategy they always do when they win, and that is just running the football. And with no Nick Chubb, that obviously is going to be harder to do. So I think Cleveland gets the win, but Joe Burrow and Cincinnati puts up points, and it's going to be very, very close. How about the Detroit Lions heading to Atlanta to take on the Falcons? And I think out of all of the games this week, this is going to be, for me, one of the harder games to pick, because good luck figuring out either of these two teams, and good luck to the squad that enters the fourth quarter with a lead on Sunday, because both the Lions and Falcons were their best selves in blowout wins last week. And I think in this game, that's the real thing I find pretty interesting, is that before last week, the last time each of these two teams played a game, we were both talking about how dreadful they were. You remember the Lions got up to that 14-0 lead against the Saints, and everyone was just out here ripping Matt Patricia. The Falcons, they're pretty bad. They fire everyone and somehow, some way, find a way to go into Minnesota and get the win over the Vikings last week. The Falcons were kind of reminded that getting Julio Jones reinserted into the lineup is always a good thing, and Detroit played really good defense last week, but I'm actually going to take the Detroit Lions to go on the road and win this game. I just can't trust the Falcons, and I know it's not like you could trust Matt Patricia either. It's just a 50-50 coin toss game between two teams that, for me, are just super unpredictable. So I think the Lions offense gets going a little bit here. Matthew Stafford hasn't put up great numbers so far. I expect him to improve a bit and have a big day against this Falcon passing defense. Okay, moving on. How about Sunday afternoon? We have the Jacksonville Jaguars heading to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. And the Chargers are 13-3 in one-score games since the start of last season. And I think the best way in order for them right now to say, all right, how exactly are we going to win games? It's going to be to build a lead over one possession. And Melvin Ingram and Justin Jones might be playing for this Charger team. Keenan Allen and Joey Bosa, who were banged up before the bye week, now get the bye week to get healthier. Yet, nothing is, I feel like, ever simple for the Chargers, and I never trust Anthony Lynn and his team to win a game, even when they're facing a Jaguars defense starting players that were signed to the team last week, and a Jaguar team, obviously, that's really struggling right now. So I'm going to take the Los Angeles Chargers to win this game, but not easy. They're an 8-point favorite right now. I don't think they cover that. Or actually, you know what? I do think they cover that. I think they'll build. I'm going to trust Justin Herbert to get the job done and cover for now, but I really don't trust it. Justin Herbert has been playing phenomenal. I'm super impressed with the way he's been playing over the last couple weeks, and once him and Keenan Allen even develop even more chemistry, once him and Mike Williams really start hitting on all cylinders, that's when I think this Los Angeles Charger team will be at its best. So I really like them to beat the Jaguars on Sunday. How about the San Francisco 49ers heading to New England to take on the... And right now, when I look at this matchup, the ultimate question is going to be this: which quarterback plays better? I don't think it's very easy to trust either of these two teams' passing games right now. Cam Newton was super hesitant to throw to open receivers last week, while the 49ers coach, Kyle Shanahan, is kind of hesitant to call plays that I think require Jimmy Garoppolo to throw the ball deep. And this is going to be a battle of running games and defense. The slight edge goes to the team with the running quarterback and the team at home. So I'm going to take the New England Patriots to get to bounce back and get the win over the 49ers. Now, I was actually impressed with what San Francisco was able to do last week in their Sunday Night Football home victory against the Rams. George Kittle played very well, had that long touchdown. Unfortunately for San Francisco, Mostert is hurt again, but he should be back by the time the season ends, and they'll need him to obviously get healthy for the playoffs. In this game, it's obviously San Francisco traveling across the country. Never easy to go to New England, so I will take the 49ers to win this game. How about the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions, coming off their big win over the Buffalo Bills? They will head to Denver to take on the Broncos. And one thing I'll say about Denver is this: they have been playing much better lately, and I was super impressed with the way they played on Sunday against the New England Patriots. The way they were really able to control the game just by having Drew Lock and his presence back there. Super impressive. And I think when you look at this game, historically, there have been a lot of things that have happened, good or bad, to Patrick Mahomes when he has faced the Denver Broncos. You remember when he got hurt last season on Thursday Night Football? That was obviously super scary. But then you remember he played Denver in his first ever NFL start and was awesome that day. He also torched Denver on the road on Monday Night Football 2 years ago. So Pat Mahomes has had his history against Denver. But I actually think in this matchup, historically over the last couple of years, which has been really dominated by the Chiefs, I think the Broncos could be somewhat competitive in this game. I think the Chiefs' most convincing wins this season have been followed by letdowns, and Vic Fangio's defense is underrated, and I think they can make it at least difficult for Patrick Mahomes to convert third and longs. I know he was super impressive at it when they were taking on the Buffalo Bills, but I do think this Denver defense playing at altitude at home is somewhat threatening. Drew Lock played better than his numbers showed last week, and now the Broncos get back Melvin Gordon, Noah Fant, and KJ Hamler back to their offense. Obviously, I'm not going to pick against the Chiefs to win, but I do feel pretty good about Denver at least keeping this game closer than expected, so I will take the Chiefs to win by 5. How about the next 4 o'clock game? This was the game that was supposed to be Sunday night, but it's now Sunday afternoon. But it is a rematch of the Super Bowl when John Gruden and the Buccaneers beat Bill Callahan and the Raiders. And this is a big-time matchup. You guys know the Raiders, when you look at their team, they've been a little up and down. They've had some big-time victories so far this season, going into Kansas City, getting a win, beating the New Orleans Saints at home. And one matchup I'm really looking forward to watching in this game is seeing what the Buccaneers pass rush is going to be able to do against the Raiders offensive line, which right now, when you look at this Raiders offensive line, I mean, Trent Brown tests positive for COVID, and they all got sent home today. And to be honest, I don't even know if the Raiders are going to be able to play this game, because if any other offensive lineman tests positive for COVID, they could be in big trouble. And if this game does get played, you look at the Buccaneers here, I mean, their offense and defense were both super impressive last week, and they really were able to slow down Devontae Adams last week. Carlton Davis, the young Buccaneer corner, really did a phenomenal job with that. And now this week, he gets Henry Ruggs, who could be step for step the fastest player in the NFL right now. I think him and Tyreek Hill would have a pretty fun debate on that. But the biggest matchup here is Tampa Bay's offensive line against Vegas' defensive line, which should allow Tom Brady plenty of time to find open receivers. And Tampa Bay, I understand it's always tough when you go on the road and you are facing a team like the Raiders, who tends to play better against good opponents at home. I'm actually going to go with the upset here, and I'm going to take the Las Vegas Raiders to win this game. Obviously, you still have to assume what the health of their offensive line looks like. I think if their offensive line is healthy, the Raiders could have a real shot in this game. It's just when you look at it, Tampa Bay's defense was super impressive last week. I don't think anyone's denying that. And for me, the one thing to look out for in this game is I'm going to be very curious to see what this Buccaneer defense has for an encore, especially against a team like the Raiders that is just super high-powering, special to watch, and could put up a lot of points. They've really shown us that and their ability to do that so far this season. So Henry Ruggs on one side, Carlton Davis on the other, Tom Brady, Derek Carr, John Gruden, Bruce Arians. This game was actually supposed to be once again Sunday night, but they ended up switching it probably because of the Raiders' threat of maybe getting COVID. How about the Sunday night game now? The Seattle Seahawks, the only undefeated team remaining in the NFC. They will head to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are an interesting team because they have faced the 4th easiest schedule in the league so far, according to Football Outsiders. This week is really going to begin to test what they do on the offensive line. They were obviously very impressive last week against the Dallas Cowboys. I was just so, Kyler Murray balled out in that game. When he runs, man, it is just super tough to stop him. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the outside for Seattle could really be the difference in this game. And I will take the Seattle Seahawks to sneak out a win over the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I will say this. I do think Kyler Murray is going to be able to put up points in this game. And actually, you know what? The more and more I think about it, I know I may regret this later. I'm going to switch my pick here. Give me Arizona to beat the Seahawks at home on Sunday Night Football. It's probably going to be the biggest Cardinals home game in a pretty long time. I'm not exactly sure if they are letting in fans yet in Arizona. But one thing I know for sure is this. Kyler Murray is going to be able to really score on that Seattle defense. And you kind of saw last week that Green Bay came into that Tampa Bay game undefeated, coming off a bye. I understand this is a division game, so maybe Seattle definitely isn't going to take Arizona lightly. I don't know. I just have a weird feeling about this one now. I know Chandler Jones is out, but I picked Arizona and Kyler Murray to be one of the breakout teams in the NFL going into this season. And for me, there's really no reason to back out of that prediction right now. This is going to be a super fun matchup. If you remember, Arizona actually went into Seattle last season towards the back end of the year, and that was one of Kyler Murray's more impressive games to start to end last season, and he was super impressive in that game. He's been impressive at moments sometime this season, especially when you consider that Monday Night Football game against the Dallas Cowboys last week. He's super dynamic, but I do think Arizona ends up winning that one. How about Monday Night Football? The Los Angeles Rams. They will host the Chicago Bears, and the Rams coming off their first loss of the season, and both of these offense really did struggle last week. The Bears offense right now doesn't look any better with Nick Foles behind center, something that I think Matt Nagy, struggles with every week. Chicago went from extreme run tendencies with Mitchell Trubisky to a heavy pass approach with Foles. And I think that's a smart move overall because it's not like they have an explosive running back in David Montgomery, but it's a tougher deal this week against a Rams secondary that's better at stopping the pass. Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson, Khalil Mack, all playing really well for this Bears defense. I just still lean the Rams here in a coin flip matchup on Monday Night Football. I don't know how I could trust the Chicago Bears and that offense and the way that it's playing right now to go on the road and score any amount of points, no matter who their quarterback is. But I do think Chicago is a playoff team. If you were to ask me who wins this game, Bears or Rams, who am I going to say? The Rams. But if you ask me, Zach, who is more likely to make the playoffs out of these two teams, the Bears or the Rams? I think I would actually say the Bears just because they're already 5-1, and even though their play and quality of it may not look like it, they are a very good football team.